So I got chickens, and let me tell you about how it's going. I have, for starters, I'm renting. That's my house. That's my neighbor's house. That's my next neighbor's house. There's no fences. I do have this awesome creek, which I thought would be perfect for my ducks. And I just want to kind of guide you guys through the last few months. I would say about 3 months since I've had them and how I make it work. Actually, I'm renting, but I'm renting and then I'm going to buy this house next year. That's what I had to deal with the landlord. But before I came, this was a rent house. So I'm going to kind of tell you guys how I get around some things to make it not so permanent, not so much affecting, your landlord's land and things like that. So keep that in mind. There's my little gold DIY pond. It's so cute. It's made out of a water barrel. And those are the neighbor kids at the creek hanging out. I would bring the ducklings here every day to go swim. And America would always come with me as a way for him to get used to the ducklings as his sisters. Well, they're brothers. We found out they were boys later on. There's the ducklings drying off. They grow so big so fast, and they need to be able to swim. I had the pond before they came around, and obviously my creek is going to be perfect for them to play in. But there's America just watching them like a good big brother. They're so cute. Get that by America. Now, it will take a few months before America is allowed around the ducks and the chickens by himself. In the beginning, I did let him on the deck with them. I might go in the house for a drink or something like that. But he was very interested in them. Every time he would come into the house, he'd make sure he'd lay eyes on his chickie babies and ducklings. But as you can see here, he's getting a little too playful. So initially when I went to go get these ducks and chickens, I only wanted ducks at the time. I was like, well, I have this beautiful clear creek, and why don't I have ducks? I mean, they would be super happy here. And then I went to Tractor Supply, and they said I had to get 6, even though when I Googled it, it said 3. But the kind of mood I was in, she could have said 20, and I'd have got 20. So I was like, well, okay, let me get 3 of each. And I raised them in the bathtub. The ducks are so messy. I ended up separating them. They were in a different bin, and the chickens were in the bathtub. And I had to clean theirs way less than I had to clean theirs. They love water. They like to sit and poop and splish and splash and put their heads in. So they are way more messier, and I could not wait to get them outside. I was super paranoid. I didn't want anything to get them, so they were pretty good size. Here's my little chicken coop, and I'll do a separate video on how I made this chicken coop, but it's basically a ton of pallets and some rebar, some hinges, lots of screws, screwing them together, and I have this A-frame. Hey ladies. Hey boys. Now, they've only been outside for the last couple weeks, mostly because I injured my ankle and I was laid up a lot. But I remember coming out and just preparing myself oh my gosh, what if they just leave? What if the chickens don't come back? What if the ducks just go down the river? Literally less than 2 miles down this little creek is the Arkansas River. It's right there. So I was like, okay, well, if the ducks swim downstream, at least I know they'll be happy. They'll be living their best life in the Arkansas River. And I kind of mentally prepared myself so I wouldn't be so heartbroken, and reassured myself they would be totally fine. And with the chickens, one day they actually got out. When I put that roost up, they got out, and they ended up staying in the yard the whole time. So I was pretty confident in the chickens. But the ducks, I was just come on now, look at this. It's gorgeous. There's bass in here, there's bluegill, there's crawdads. Down there is even prettier. It's just, so I was mentally preparing myself. You know what? If these ducks leave, they'll just be happier. Well, now these, that's Perla. These ducks have not. Daisy is the only one who got in the water. That's Daisy, the white one. And he is the only one who got in the water. And they refuse to get in the water. They've been out here hours at a time. We usually let them out right before noon. And they're out here till almost sundown. The dogs have the yard for the better part of the first part of the morning. And I try to get out here and get them to come in here so they're not scared. They're exploring a little more than usual now, of course, now that I talk about it. But I was so worried, you guys, about oh my gosh. Now, as gorgeous as my backyard is, as you can tell, there's absolutely no fence. So my birds and ducks are subject to a little more extra predators than maybe someone else with a yard or farm would be. At any point, a stray dog can come into my yard. There is a nearby hawk that I always see at the creek fishing on the days that as soon as it stops raining. And so I always keep the dogs outside. The dogs will at the very least bark at another predator that's trying to come at their chickens or in their yards, whether it's a person or another dog or a raccoon. My dogs will let me know. So if I'm busy in the garden, my back is turned away from the ducks, I can rely on them to let me know that something is getting close. So far, we've had great luck with the ducks. We've had no predators. There's a nearby hawk, but I think he threatens them. I do see that they see him, and that may be the reason why my ducks don't care to go in the creek, or they're just scaredy cats. But other than that, it's been pretty good. I stay home, so I spend a lot of time with them. Between me and the dogs, we seem to keep the birdies safe. Almost had a heart attack, but they're all up in there. What are you guys doing? Way braver than the ducks. The chickens are brave. The ducks are chickens. And they just kind of hang by the coop. They might splash for a second, but usually they don't get in the water. Rowena is like me. She's like a nomad. She's always off on her own, doing her own stuff. Appreciates her own space. And I feel you, girl. I feel you. Come on, girls. Those mean old ducks. Look at them mean old ducks. Now everybody knows. Now, the ducks and the chickens do live in the same coop. And they do get along. There's no missing feathers. I never see any fights. But the ducks are treat hoggers. They can gobble up those tomatoes and that lettuce way quicker than the chickens. So sometimes the chickens get a little special treatment because those ducks will devour that bowl of salad way quicker than they can, and they don't even get any of the good stuff. So how I did it in the beginning is I would let the dogs outside in the mornings, and then around 12 or 1, I would bring the dogs in and I'd let the ducks and the chickens have free range of the yard. Now that I've introduced the new puppy and America to the ducks and they're used to seeing them and seeing me feed them, they're on their stake on their leash outside, and they are great protectors, and they will bark and let me know if anyone's coming. The ducks and chickens will roam the yard. They love going in this little area over here. I think it's because it's got all this overhang and they can eat some leaves and bugs and things like that. And maybe they feel a little protected as far as aerial predators. And at night, just like clockwork, they put themselves to bed, just like everyone told me they would do. They go right in their coop, so I don't have to chase them down or anything. All 6 of them are there to tuck in and go to sleep. They put themselves to sleep. Now I have to just close the door behind them. I love my backyard flock. I think it's a great addition to my garden. I have some great fertilizer now and some great friends. None of my birds will be used as meat, just for eggs. And they're so sweet, and I love to just sit and watch them eat. I could literally watch them all day. They make my heart so happy. Look how cute they are. So that's my experience with my backyard flock. in a normal cookie cutter neighborhood, and I don't even have a fence. And so far, it's going pretty good. I should be expecting eggs in February.